Away, there, brothers. Hello, listener. Welcome back to another episode of the Forest Brothers Podcast. Best podcast in the whole wide world. You know what it is. You know the vibes. Get with us. Get with us. All right. It's your boy, Muta Krista Makufa, back in the cut. You know what it is. Joined again by my two brothers, Ngome Zulu and Samson Amp, the chemist, Mr. Pinguini himself. So, brothers, let me give you a chance to say hello to the beautiful listeners out there and show them some love. Starting with the boy Sangi. Sangi, how's about you spread your arms wide and give our listeners a hug and say hello?
Dear listener, my fellow Arsenal fans, how are you doing, gents? How is it? What a beautiful day this is. What a beautiful week this is. My two brothers are here with me. Mangoro, great to see you. Mwari, great to see you. But wow, what about them Arsenal boys, man? What about them, guys? What about them? Oof, every week I watch these guys and I'm just blown away, man. But yeah, dear listener, I can't wait to get into this week's pod. Can't wait to break down Spurs and tear this man a new one, this man Mwari. But yeah, boys, let's get into it.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Bonjour, Mykhailo Mudryk. Welcome to Stamford Bridge. I'd like to take this moment to actually say hello to you, dear listener out there. Hope you're ready for a fire episode, Forest Brothers. Always back with the bang. I'd also like to greet my two fellow co-hosts here, Mr. Mwari, as well as Mr. Masanga. And yeah, EPL is back. We're talking football today.
Indeed, Mangoro. We're talking about football today, and listener, as you know, this was Derby weekend. So we're gonna be getting into these Derby games because, yeah, these both games were actually quite explosive. So yeah, we're gonna start with Manchester United versus Man City Derby weekend, and yeah, listener, in case you do not know, Man United won the game 2-1, controversially or uncontroversially, depending on which side you're on. A lot of people were happy that Man City lost, Arsenal fans mostly, and yeah, well, including United fans. But yeah, let's get into that. But the first thing first, boys, I want to have a chat here. Like, I want to hear your opinions. Was Rashford offside or not? Should that first goal have stood? Yes or no? Because I've seen a lot of debate on Twitter, on spaces, on buses and parks, everywhere, on planes, in churches. People are saying he was either on or off. Did he interfere with play or did he not? In my humble opinion, that should have been an offside. Clear. Rashford is running across the ball. It looks like he's about to shoot, and then Fernandes shoots. Edison doesn't know who's going to shoot because the flag's not been raised. And Akanji, some say he couldn't have got there. Some will say he could have. Point being, if Rashford was not in the picture, they would have done something different. Maybe Edison would have ran in. If he saw that, no one's going to get to it. Maybe Walker would have done something different. I don't know. Point being, that goal should not have stood. That's my humble opinion. I don't know. Anyway, boys, I want to hear what you think about that specifically. Was that off or was that on for you? Let me start with the boy Sangi. Like, Sangi, what do you think about that?
Offside, no debate. Offside, any day of the week. Offside. It's offside because one pundit put it very bluntly. He's on the pitch. Okay, he's right there. He's on the pitch. He's running at the ball, and he's clearly involved in the play. You can say he doesn't touch the ball, but like, if three defenders are looking at you and are reacting to you, to whatever you're doing in the play, then yes, you are interfering with the play. And there's no question that if he wasn't there, all those three players, the two Man City centre backs and Edison would have responded differently to that situation. And actually, the most powerful picture I saw on Twitter the other day was some guy had photoshopped Rashford completely out of the picture. When he's photoshopped out of the picture, you can tell, like, you would think Edison is about to clear the ball because, it doesn't make sense why Edison wouldn't just go and kick it, but he's there. Edison thinks, I don't think Edison is aware that he's offside. He just thinks, oh, this guy might score if I try to go get the ball. So he stays at home. The two defenders, are chasing Rashford. They're not looking at Fernandez. They're chasing Rashford. So for me, that is why it should have been given as offside. But you know, we are also 8 points clear at the top. So it is offside. But hey, Man City fans, what can I say? It is what it is. It is what it is.
You know, I just got off watching a quick video here from a reliable source. You should check him out there. Sky Sports, Dermot Gallagher on Ref Watch. And what has been echoed here today at the podcast, I think, is actually true. It was indeed an offside because if you look at the positioning of Rashford in conjunction with the ball and where Akanji was and where Bruno was, Rashford was the meat in between the two. He was in a sandwich, there's the two layers, then there's the meat in between. So it was Bruno one side of the one slice, and Akanji the other slice, and Rashford was in the middle. So technically he was interfering with them. And very strangely enough, I don't know how the VAR decided that he was onside. He didn't touch the ball. I do agree with that, but World Cup final assistant referee lifted his flag. The general rule is that once the assistant referee changes hands from, I don't know if people know this, but if the referee is running along the lines and he changes the point of the flag from left to right hand and lifts the flag, it's offside. And he lifted the flag. That was the correct decision because he was interfering with play. Because if you look at Edison's positioning as part of the goalkeepers union, something I'd know very well is that his positioning was focused on Rashford the whole time. Because there's no way in hell that Bruno scores that if Edison knows that Bruno's about to take that shot. Because you saw how close it was to his body. So I do agree with that it was offside, but don't take away from the fact that Manchester United won the game. They have truly changed their persona around like their team. They have gotten rid of problems. And I saw a very interesting quote the other day from a certain Bruno Fernandes, who actually said, now they play as a collective unit. They play as a team. Whereas before, I wouldn't know what he was referring to previously when he was referring to them just being a bunch of individuals, and there was this one particular individual that was causing problems. I don't know. Maybe you brothers can shed the light on who that brother was. I am not too privy of that information.
Yeah, man. Let's let that brother enjoy the sun in Saudi Arabia. Okay, let's let him be. But anyways, I also did watch that video, and what that ref was saying was technically it should be offside, but based on what the ref was seeing on the pitch, he could see that Fernandez was gonna get the ball anyways, or something like that, and Rashford didn't get the ball. And according to the rules of offside, like I think one of, I don't know what I think there are four cases where it's offside. If the player touches the ball, number one. Number two, if he interferes with play in some way. Or number three, if something, I don't know. I might be lying here. But all I know is one of the rules was that the ref thought that, it's going to be fine. And it was subjective at that point. And he thought, okay, fine, I'll just give the goal or something. I think that some video I watched on Sky Sport, to me, it sounded like BS, and I don't know if there was some agenda there at United because they were at Old Trafford, or if there's something for Man City. But to be fair, Man City did not have their best game. I think Haaland barely touched the ball. But yeah, you know what? We'll get into Man City in a little bit to just really talk about their teams and what they're going. But yeah, Samson, what do you have to say?
Just very quickly, the player that shall not be named in Saudi Arabia shook the hands of two Real Madrid players, and Real Madrid lost 3-1. But we'll leave that aside. That's not important. The other thing is, this is the second incident this season where VAR has intervened in a Manchester United game and made the wrong decision. We need to fix that. Like, we need to be asking serious questions of the Premier League of what is going on with VAR, because you cannot tell me that the people in the trucks who are supposed to be experts, you're supposed to be, the guys handling VAR are supposed to be top tier referees, people who have extensive experience covering the game and reffing the game. How they looked at replays upon replays upon replays and thought, nah, yeah, that one sounds fine. Everything's okay there. Like, the linesman has his flag up. You should be telling the referee, hey, that guy has his flag up. We've seen it a few times. It's wrong. How did they miss that? Like, that's my thing. Like, and we're gonna get into Man City's play in a bit, but yeah, for me, I just wanted to bring that up. Like, VAR, that's 2 games in a row, two games this season. First was at Arsenal with the Odegaard foul, which was actually in Martinelli's goal, I believe. That was chalked off. Wrong decision. This is the second time. Wrong decision by VAR in a Man United game. I don't think any other team has gone like 2 games handed to them through VAR this season. Most teams get goals taken away. Man United are getting goals. So yeah, I have an issue with that, and I think that's something that needs to be looked at.
Sang in with the conspiracy theories. I love it. I love it. But you know what? Let's actually talk about both teams and how they are shaping up as we go, because it looks like Man United is picking up momentum. I think this was their ninth win in 9 games, and Man City somewhat looks like they are on the decline. Surprisingly enough, you know, I mean, we said in the earlier part that De Bruyne has fallen off since the World Cup, but he ended up providing the assist for the first goal to Grealish. And yeah, so let's actually just talk about both teams and what's going right for Man United and what is going wrong for Man City. So I want to hear you guys' perspective on that. Let me start with the boy Mangoro. What do you think is going right for United, firstly?
So, what is critical that I mentioned just a couple of seasons ago, well, last season actually, with Man United, that I think is now we're starting to see the fruits of it, is that the coach has been given time to work with his own players on the training ground and what he wants to do. And there's a collective effort across the team rather than trying to play to a specific individual or play in a certain way that doesn't suit the coach's style. Because if the coach's style doesn't impress the players, it'll be hard for them to execute. So now there's a more focus on actually the players adopting the coach's tactical know-how, as we saw this past weekend. And that is where I think Eric Ten Hag is actually showing his class as somewhat of a good coach, a very good coach. I'm not going to say world class, we haven't seen it yet, but he's a very good coach in terms of like coaching the players. Because nowhere in hell should Luke Shaw play centre back. They played their usual 4-2-3-1, and with Rashford and Martial up top, it looked quite fluid. The boy Garnacho is coming. He's coming all right. Youngsters coming through. He's doing well. Got the assist for the second goal, and they just use pace, which is the threat that Manchester United have. Rashford looks like a different breed now in terms of playing, and I think that's on the Manchester United side. I think that's what's working for them. On the Man City side, I think this is classic Pep. I think he's starting to overthink it very, very early. Because keep in mind, he hasn't done this is not the first time he's done this. He did this against Chelsea in that other game, not the FA Cup game, but the league game, where he did some very strange back three kind of situation, and it didn't work. So he's starting to overthink things, and what actually brought him to where he was to be successful, I think he's moving away from those things. And that's why the team's struggling, as you saw this past weekend. So I think he needs to return back to his principles as he returned against Chelsea and they won the game. In the second half, when he brought on the players that he needed to bring on, I'm not a big fan of Jack Grealish, but he did get the assist for the winning goal there, and he got the goal this past weekend. And you can see when he returns to the team that he knows and trusts, they win games. But not to take anything away from Manchester United, I would say maybe they shaded it on just this game in essence. But honestly, maybe this is just Pep just thinking about 3 years down the line about what he wants to do. But yeah, Mr. Masanga, I think you're very pleased about the end result. Would you share the same sentiments?
Yeah, exactly. I think you're spot on there. I think, yeah, Ten Hag has definitely improved Manchester United this season. Although I will point out that the brothers on this pod did mention that a defensive midfielder would solve United's problem, a lot of United's problems. last season. We did mention that, and lo and behold, it has. We signed a world-class defensive midfielder, and look at the team. Even Fred is looking good these days, and that's what has been missing for a very long time. But on top of that, yeah, you can see the hallmarks of a good coach in games like this when you play, a team like Man City, with players like Haaland and De Bruyne, because, and I saw this a little bit when Arteta started with Arsenal, because in Arteta's early days, even though the mistakes were there because he was trying to change the system and trying to get people to play out from the back and withstand a lot of pressure, and the mistakes happening, red cards, all this and that, but he stuck to his principles and people got better in those roles. I think Ten Hag has done the same, and you're seeing the fruits of that hard work. On top of that, it's always a good thing when your coach can get a good result against Man City and stop Man City from playing. To me, that's always like a green flag for any coach, because, like you alluded to, Mangora, like Haaland was nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. Like this brother, he is 6'4" or 6'3", 6'3" or 6'4", but we couldn't see him. Like Man City could not, you know, like their regular build up, playing through midfield, getting the ball to those half spaces so they can get into a position where they can release Haaland. They were nowhere near getting into those kinds of areas. They were kept at the halfway line most of the game, and they were just making sideways passes, turning the ball over, and then Man United had a counterattack. That is good coaching in play. That is work on the training ground, and I have to give Ten Hag a lot of credit for that. But I also have to give Pep a lot of criticism, because Pep, you have World Cup winner Julian Alvarez on the bench. You have a solution to the very problem you are facing right now. You have a player in Haaland who, you said yourself, he's not Messi. He cannot create for himself. He needs service. Okay. After 60, 70 minutes, you've seen that you cannot service him. Their entire game plan is to stop you servicing Haaland that game. You have a player who can drop deep and link play and stop what Man United are doing. You have someone who can change the game. And credit to you, you brought in Grealish, he scored a goal, but you still weren't in control of the game. I was surprised he did not put on Julian Alvarez and take off Haaland, because that would have given them better control of the ball. Because in this game, when you have the ball, you have confidence. Especially when you have the ball and you're able to keep it for long periods of time, and the opponent is pressing and they can't win it. They get close, but just not close enough. That is how Pep has killed teams over his entire career. That's the basis of the tiki-taka style. It's not necessarily keeping the ball, but keeping the ball in dangerous areas and just snatching hope out of the opposition because they know they can't get the ball. They weren't able to build that confidence in this game, and Man United were able to gain it because they kept winning the ball, they kept challenging them, and they kept getting opportunities on the counter. If you had Julian Alvarez on the pitch, you would have had a much better control of the ball. And I'm surprised, like, the whole game, Pep was looking at Haaland expecting to do something, and the boy he was not equipped to do anything in this match. Ten Hag had a perfect game plan for Haaland, and it worked. And Pep, I am just so surprised. You have so many world-class players on the bench, and you just didn't use them. Like, to me, that is the most surprising part of that game. But yeah, good win for United, good win for Arsenal, and yeah, we'll see those boys next week.
No, 100%. And so, actually, before we move on to the London derby between Tottenham and Arsenal here, so the last question on this Man United thing: do they now have as much of a claim to being title contenders this season as Man City do? Because right now, Man United and Man City are 1 point, like there's 1 point between them, right? Man City are on 39, United is at 38. They both have a game in hand. So technically, so can we say, Newcastle and United also have the same amount of points. So if we're saying in the same sentence that Man United have a claim to the title, are we saying Newcastle does too? That's the question. So I'm just curious to hear from you two boys as to whether you think that Man United and Newcastle should start feeling like, yo, we're actually in this title race right now and it's possible. Or it's still between Man City and Arsenal. So I just want to hear, Mangoro, I can start with you. Like, what do you think about claims to the title right now? Do Man United and Newcastle have a shout?
I would say, listener, let's not waste our time here and start spreading false narratives. I think we need to be real and be honest to ourselves. I think it's new, as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago. It's a new year. I think we need to start telling the truth and embrace the truth, and not be afraid of the truth. Don't hide from the truth. The truth will set you free. And the truth being here, there's only two teams in this title race. It's Arsenal and Man City. This is Man U and the fun they won, and Newcastle, they're not in the title race. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, I'll just end it there. I don't think they're in the title race. Like, this is a long, grueling season. Technically, they're only at the halfway point of the season, technically speaking, right now, because they've played 19 games. Whereas before, by this time, January, February, they probably had like 23 games, and now you can start to see men from the boys. But for me personally, I can safely say that the top two teams, from what I've witnessed from them, they're the ones in the title race. Unfortunately, maybe in like year 2 or 3, it's something that Mourinho used to say back in the day. There's two big horses in the title race and some little horses. And those little horses are currently Newcastle and Man U. Maybe they'll grow up next year and they'll be big horses and they'll be in the title race. But currently, I just do not see it.
I would tend to agree with that. I would say no chance for Newcastle because I believe Bruno Guimaraes is injured, and yeah, they're already light in that department already. Um, with him gone, I expect them to drop a few points. Manchester United could face the same issues because Varane is injury prone, Rashford is injury prone, and Casemiro is a pretty solid athlete. But if they miss Rashford or Varane or Casemiro for any reason, that could derail their season. And also, I bring injuries up because they're still in all competitions that they could, that they're involved in. So that's the Europa League, Premier League, obviously, FA Cup, EFL Cup. They're involved in all those competitions. So anything could happen. All those games, very thin squad. They just brought in Wout Weghorst. I don't think Weghorst is necessarily the answer. They don't have a big budget transfer-wise to go out and get players. So yeah, I think for now United are a little horse, as Mangoro said. But if Man City and Arsenal do drop off at some point, go into any rough patches, then maybe I'll change my opinion on them.
Okay, okay. Well, for me personally, I do think that they have a claim, especially United, because they have momentum and they've been doing well. So, you know what? I think my United fans can start feeling a little hopeful, even though we know it is the hope that kills you. But you can have a little hope, Man United fans, just a little. Man City are dropping off, but I'm sure they'll catch back on. You know, Arsenal already 8 points away, which is adding a lot of pressure. Man City, actually, any team below Arsenal right now cannot like afford to lose any points because if Arsenal get to like 12 points ahead, then it's starting to look a little done. And I do not want to see that future for myself because that would be quite a depressing future. So with that, let's actually get into the London Derby between Tottenham and Arsenal. And I can see Samson's beaming with joy and excitement. And before we get there, I think it's painful for me because Tottenham are playing Man City in the next game, and it creates a very tough situation because obviously I'd like Spurs to beat City, but if we beat City and Arsenal win the next game, that only makes things a little complicated. We'll basically be handing Arsenal the title, which will be very, very painful. Even that would even be more painful if that win with City, we did over City, is actually the reason why Arsenal end up winning the league much later on. So I do not want that feature again, but we also need to win a game. So what I can only hope for is that Arsenal loses, Tottenham wins, and yeah. But anyways, London Derby. Yeah, we got beaten 2-0. It was a feisty game. There was a lot that happened there. But you know what? I'll give Samson his time to gloat here because I know he's been looking forward to it. And I have nothing to say for my boys. My boys played a very disgusting game. Another first half of getting 2 goals scored against you or whatever it was. The boys looked lackluster. Like, I'm glad Kulusevski's back, but damn it, man, he cannot do all the work. Kane was busting his ass, man. But even like Son, I don't even know what he was. You know, it's just very sad there at Tottenham Hotspur. You know, I really have nothing else to say about them. I thought maybe they'll come back with some fighting spirit in the second half, which they did. They tried, but to no avail. It's a little too late to start like trying to break Arsenal down. And yeah, Conte needs to get things right. I don't know why he's not making transfers in the window right now. I don't know why he's not trying to buy like a good midfield player that can help us link play again in the middle there. Because for God's sake, we cannot be throwing Brian Hill on to try to save ourselves. We really can't. We can't be throwing on Oliver Skip. And I said this every week. We cannot be throwing on those two brothers thinking Bissouma. Like I saw him throwing on Bissouma at 70 minutes. And I'm like, bro. We're trying to do something here. And you're throwing on Bissouma? Like, come on, man. Like, please respect us as fans. So clearly our bench is not looking great. And with Bentancur not back yet, I don't even rate Bentancur that much, but he helps. You know, it's yeah, it's not looking great, man. So to be honest with you, I don't really have much to say about Tottenham right now. I think Conte needs to do something urgently. But Samson, by all means, here's your time. Go ahead, my guy. I'm ready for the taking.
Finally, vindication. I told you. I told you, Jet. I freaking told you from the summer. I told you we were better than y'all. I told you your transfers were shit. I told you this. And this is the vindication I deserve. Me and all the Arsenal fans all around the world. 2 wins. Domination. I told you. 2 keepers were retiring. That man retired I told you he'd retire mid-game, and he did. Pushed in across. Just pushed it in. David didn't want to save it. He could catch it, but nah, he just decided to push it in. On top of that, where's Harry Kane? Where is Harry Kane? Because I guarantee you, if you go to Gabriel's house today and ask him to empty his pockets, Harry Kane will pop out of there. He will pop out of there. Ask Ben White. Go ask Ben White to empty his jeans today. You'll see Son come out. Oh, man. This is... Yeah, all I can say is I told you so, man. The thing about Spurs is that apart from Son and Kane, your 2 other best players are Bentancur and Kulusevski, who Bongoros called it when they signed, were rejects from Juventus. Okay? On top of that, you have Langley, reject from Barcelona. Doherty, basically a reject from Wolves. This is not a good team, right? Poorly constructed. But you've gotten here because you keep changing managers, and each new manager wants different players because they have a different system, a different idea, a different plan. But it's not easy buying quality players to fit new systems every season. It's just impossible. So what you end up is buying average players every year for a lot of money, and you end up with an average squad. And that's the state of Tottenham. Now, Conte in 2016 could have turned an average squad into a world beater. Conte today is past it. Okay? Other coaches in the league have figured him out. He just, whatever he had before, whatever little magic he was working in those dressing rooms, whatever little magic he was working with the tactics, it's gone. Because I don't know if you guys remember this, but one of the few times Harry Kane touched the ball in the first half, he was in his own box, launching a through ball to Kulusevski. That was a crime. It was a crime that Harry Kane had to do that. And the only man to blame is Antonio Conte, that freaking football terrorist. That's the only man you can blame for that. And I don't know, like this week is going to be interesting because either way, Arsenal fans are popping champagne this week. Either way, because it's either you beat Man City and you turn your season around and we go 11 points clear, or you lose to Man City, you lose Antonio Conte because he gets fired because his job is on the hot seat. He's on the hot seat because he's been in poor form, and your club just falls apart in the second half of the season. And who doesn't love a Tottenham destruction? Who doesn't? Arsenal fans, we live for that. So either way, this is a fantastic week for Arsenal fans everywhere. And my dear Arsenal fans, get yourself a nice bottle of red, some Chardonnay or some champagne, and just pop that. Pop that on Thursday night as you watch as you watch the destruction or the success of Tottenham. Either way, we are celebrating, my dear fans. We are celebrating this week. It's a beautiful week, guys. Beautiful.
You know, when I was watching that game, I was just surprised at some of the things I was seeing, honestly, from a Spurs perspective. Because as someone who knows the goalkeepers union very well, what Hugo Lloris displayed there, especially for that first goal, it was quite atrocious. I have never seen that. Like the level of disrespect from Eddie Nketiah to head the ball literally in the back of the net. That goes to show how much disrespect he was showing Spurs that day. That should tell you. That's number one. Number two, I don't understand what Romero's doing there for that second goal. He just lets that man take the shot from wherever he wants. He knows it's blindsided his keeper, and you won't see anything. Like that ball will go in, obviously. So very disappointed that in that Spurs defense. But looking at that Spurs team, I don't think I've seen. Maybe I've seen at Bournemouth or one of these Nottingham Forests. Very weak side of a team. That left hand side, Son, I think he should sit outside. He literally contributes nothing. Sessignon, he fooled us at the beginning of the season with those couple of good performances. Longley, no comment. Like those three individuals need to be reassessed and taken out of the first team, and then just try something new. I think as a Spurs supporter, you need to adopt my mentality on the season as a Chelsea supporter. Just forget about the season. I'm telling you now, like as a Chelsea supporter, I've forgotten about the season. Like right now, I'm just excited about us signing players rather than what's happening on the field because nothing's impressive there. And Spurs fans, I think, to save themselves, sometimes you know the truth. The truth will set you free, and you need to just save yourself. Spurs supporters. I don't know if they're in the knockout of the Champions League. Just forget about this season. Hopefully, Conte will still be here next season to farm, and we will be ready for it. But I'm just saying, just forget about this season and hope for the best next season.
You know what we need? We need our savior back, Mr. Pochettino. Just come back, Mauricio. We miss you, please. I think we've tried it with Conte. It's fine. I think Poch right now is the best man to come in, bring in some Guala, and get us some new players. I begged Levy, like, well, I don't remember which episode it was, but I was begging him, my guy, please just jump on a plane, go to Brazil. Pick a random few people. Like just find a random pitch and pick a couple of kids you don't even know. I don't care. Or even go to Argentina and do that. Or go to and you guys know how much I hate Argentina. I'm even saying go there. It's fine. Just and even go to France, man. Just go to a random playground and pick somebody. I don't care who it is, but it's better than what we have right now. Because for the life of me, if I have to see Skip on the pitch one more time, I think that's it for me. I think I'm done. I think it's okay at this point. I think I'll just quit.
Your heart's gonna skip a beat, huh?
If I'm lucky, it does. But yeah, man, I think at this point, I think I'll just, as Mangor is saying, if I see any more disgusting performances, I'll just forget about the season and hopefully start putting my energies into Newcastle and hope that they do something. Hopefully like they go on and win the league or something. Maybe that'll be me. But I think there's still 17 games left to go, 17, 18, depending on which team. I think Tottenham can turn it around. We just need to this 17th of January, the day we're recording this pod. Conte, you have 2 weeks. Buy somebody. Patch us up. Just it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just please buy Germany. I think Bundesliga is not playing right now. If I'm correct, I think I've seen that it's not been playing for the last 3 weeks. Just go to Germany and pick some fodder there. I don't care who it is. Like even bring Werner back. I'm on my knees here. So, anyways, that's it for me and Spurs. I think that we'll bounce back. If we beat City, it's fine. We'll catch Arsenal at some point. Man City will do whatever they can, but we do need to keep it pushing because Fulham is 2 points away from us, and I don't know what I'll do if Fulham end up on top of us at the end of the season. Like if Fulham finish ahead of Tottenham, like by all means, like I don't know what I'll do, man. I really have no idea. But anyways. Moving on before I start crying on the podcast. No one needs to hear that. Let's talk about Chelsea for a minute. Like Makosi, you alluded to this a little bit about the buying of your boy Mudryk or wherever he just came from, or however you even say his name. I'd never heard of this kid. I don't know where he plays. I don't know what he does. I don't know what his position is. I don't know why he was the hardest thing that Arsenal and Chelsea were fighting for. But of course, Ted Bowley comes in there and does what he does. I even heard he joined the Chelsea's last Twitter space, like some fan, and he sat in there for like an hour listening to people's chats about transfers. I think that's where he gets his news from. He joins random Chelsea spaces and hears what's hot, and it's like, all right then, 200 milli, who we buy next? And then that's how it goes. But anyways, let me leave that up to let me just give you, Mangoro, the platform to talk a little bit about your boy and whether you're excited and whether you think it's good for the squad or whether you think this is even good for football. They bought that man for 200 mil. We barely know what he does. So anyway, Mangoro, what do you think?
Let's start by correcting you so that you don't mislead the listeners. It was 70 million euros up front and 30 million in add-ons. So a total package of 100 million. And he signed an 8.5 year contract. Wow, some crazy stuff by the boy Todd. But Mykhailo Mudryk, as the name, pace is the game. That's what he brings. He has clocked the fastest top speed in this season's past Champions League, coming from Shakhtar Donetsk. This man is electric. If we get the Mudryk from Shakhtar, we have a player. I'll give the listener a quick lesson back to just probably about 7 months ago, and I said there's some players that people need to watch out for in the next coming season. And this boy was on that list, Mykhailo Mudryk. And it's actually interesting that now we have signed him. I don't know, maybe I'm just too excited about us signing players, but maybe I don't see the vision as yet from Ekbali and Clear Lake Capital and Todd Bowley. It's just not that clear, but I would hope now with the appointment of Paul Wood-Stanley and Christopher Vivel as a technical director, that there is a vision going forward on signing these young players and giving them these long-term contracts, which makes sense for amortization and just accounting purposes because you pay the fee over the 8 years rather than paying the 80 or 100 million right now, right here, up front. That's how we got the deal. And I would like to ask my boy Samson here, like, the difference between y'all getting Mudryk and us getting Mudryk was a difference of 5 million euros. Couldn't y'all just go over the edge and get to that 100 million that they wanted? Because that was what your second package, 70 million plus 25. And we came and said 70 million plus 30 mil. Or we are going to take a different approach to this entire transfer and just hope that since no one's bidding at the end of the day, they'll just take that 95 million and call it a day.
Right. So there's two reasons why Arsenal did end up signing Mykhailo Mudryk. That's number one, the structure of the payments, and number two, Chelsea offered more wages. So Arsenal had agreed personal terms with this kid early January. I believe it was like 35 grand he had agreed to, which was a major upgrade from the 3 grand he was earning. So that wasn't an issue. And he was okay with that. The issue came with Shakhtar had the 100 million fee, which they wanted people to meet. But Arsenal's package ended up. I was reading on the Athletic today. Arsenal's package was basically the same as Chelsea's. You know, minus the even like the 5 million thing. I think they upped that, and it was fairly close to Chelsea's final offer. The main difference was the bonuses. So Chelsea's bonuses were structured differently from Arsenal's bonuses. I'm not sure exactly like all the different stuff that was in there, but I know in particular there was a Ballon d'Or clause that Edu was putting in there that one of the bonuses would be activated if Mudryk won the Ballon d'Or. Chelsea did not have a Ballon d'Or clause. So Chelsea got permission. Chelsea's bid was accepted, and they got permission to speak to the player. And then once the player agreed, did the medical and all that. So that's why the deal was done. But we actually didn't have permission to talk to the player and offer him a deal because Shakhtar actually never accepted our bid, ever, even though it came pretty close to what they wanted. It's just that they did not agree with the bonus structure, and that was basically it. And also, again, the contract thing, like again, Chelsea. It's been rumored you guys offered 200 grand a week. We offered 35. Again, there's just no competition there. Like everyone in their right mind would pick Chelsea over Arsenal there. So at the end of the day, I can't even be mad at the guy. It's just there was more money being thrown around by your boy Todd, and it is what it is.
Yo, but that's disrespectful for Arsenal, man. 35K? Like, come on, fam. And to me, that sounds a little disrespectful. But 200 million sounds too much. Like, if they offer the boy, like, which also was like, okay, my guy, we'll pay you 70K. Bet. Because now, Bo Mount, like, doesn't he get more money than Mount at this point? And I know Mount's been wanting money. Like, what does this mean for the Chelsea locker room? Because now I wonder, like, this kid is coming in. We saw his picture. I don't know what picture, if that picture is real, but like his bedroom before had like porcelain cats on the counter. Like, man, looked like he was living as a 70-year-old grandma in Eastern Europe. Now he's earning 200K a week. Like, I'm actually scared what this kid is gonna use this money for. Like, we're just gonna see him buy the most outlandish thing in our lives. Like, we're just gonna see him walking around like with the Bengal tiger just because he got the money to do it. Like, so yeah, man. Arsenal, y'all are being disrespectful about that 35K. Do you agree, right, Samson? Like, 35K was quite disrespectful as a salary.
I agree it's a little disrespectful, but I also don't think that 200K is reasonable. Like, I think there's like a happy middle. And I think Arsenal would have gotten there. Like, if their bid was accepted, I'm fairly confident Edu would have upped it to like 60. Because, like, again, at the end of the day, Mutsa, at the top of the show, you just said you had no idea who this kid was. I'm sure a lot of our listeners had no idea who this kid was. Most people in the footballing world don't know what this kid is, have never seen him play, really. We know because we've watched a few games of Shakhtar in the Champions League. We've seen how good he is. But that doesn't necessarily translate into the Premier League. And that's the main sticking point when it comes to transfers like this. Like, is it going to translate? Like, this money you're paying? And again, we still have to sign Saka to a new deal, which is going to be over 200K. Martinelli, about 200K. Saliba, close to 200K. So, like, all these guys have proven they're worth that money. And to sign a guy who hasn't would also just mess up our locker room. So I think it's fair. I don't know what Chelsea are going to do about their players because, yes, he's now a top earner. He's probably in the top 5 earners at the club. Who knows what that means in terms of his game time, his hierarchy in the squad and all that stuff. I don't know, but yeah, we do not want those problems, and I'm glad that we weren't too desperate and just decided to just I'm throwing money at the situation because it would have come back to bite us. I'm pretty sure.
You know what I'd say to this 200 million that we've just spoken about? From a Chelsea perspective, it works two ways. There is the positive, there is the negative. Let me start with the negative. The negative aspect is that we pay him 200K a week for 8 years, and he's not worth the hype. So we're just giving this man free money to go buy Bengal tigers apparently, and to replace that porcelain whatever thing that he has there at his household. But the positive aspect from Chelsea's perspective and from I think in Todd's thinking with Ekbali is that if we pay him 200 mil now, give him this money up front, in 4 years' time, he'll still be earning 200K. So even if he's still hot and he's now demanding 400, he can't do anything because he's eaten the money from previous. So that 3 years when Ozo were relying on him, he was eating the money there. So they would put the money up front, and that 200 is going to be earning. Where we say before you reach your potential, we'll hand you the money. When you reach your potential, you're not allowed to ask for a pay increase or demand to move because what? You still have another 4 years on that contract to earn to still be on that 200K. So that's where I see the positive aspect of it, in that in the duration of the 8 years, you think psychologically like you've killed it because from £3, 3,000 or whatever, or 3,000 a week to 200K on an 8 year contract, you think you're killing it. But in terms of money terms, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But because like if you turn out to be a superstar, you literally be on 200K when Mount on 400K. So that's the trade off. And I think he was like, which one's better? Let me take this one because if he took the Arsenal deal and he went to Arsenal, he was going to do 70 on like a 5 year contract. After 3 years, he was going to be in line to double that amount to get to 200K. So he was like, I don't see the vision here. Might as well take this 200 over this 8.5 years.
Yo, you know what I hope for? I hope that he's gonna have good manager skill, like personal manager. Because I'm thinking about the jump from 3,000 to 200,000 in the space of a week. Like, and he's young, right? So I do hope that there are people like actually watching over him, and they're not just gonna let him do stupid things. Because I feel like when you find yourself with all that money at once, and you never had it before, like, hey man, 3K humbles you, fam. It keeps you grounded. When you're starting to touch 200, like, I just hope it doesn't like go to the club and start acting reckless, or whatever, like I hope it actually keeps it chill. But anyways, listener, we will leave it at that point and see how this boy does. Hopefully we'll see him play in the next Chelsea game. I'm very much looking forward to watching him flop at Chelsea, and I'll find it very funny. So yeah. But anyways, we'll close it off. So let me hand it over to my boys here, and we'll say our little goodbyes. So over to you, Sangi, and then we'll hand it over to Mr. Mongoro. So over to you, Samson.
Dear listener, once again, you have been listening to the Forest Brothers podcast. Always great having you. Always great being here with my two brothers, Mongoro, Mori. Great doing the pod with you. And to my Arsenal fans, we're top of the league. We're top of the league. And Spurs is sinking. So yeah, what more could we want? We want the league. That's what we want. And yeah. Anyways, there's nothing else left to say, but we'll see United next week and we'll see what happens. But yeah, great having you guys. Great talking to you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, listener, for taking the time today to listen to the Forest Brothers podcast. We hope you've learned quite a lot from us today and you were well informed on the happenings on the world of soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, Ebola, as they call it in Eswatini. You know, I'd also like to thank those that have tuned in there on YouTube. If you feel like you want to go listen to the Frost Brothers podcast, we are now available on the tube, YouTube. Always available. We're dropping episodes day by day there. So start to tune in there. We do have Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcast or whatever they call it. I don't want to be listening. You correct me if I'm wrong, but Chelsea fans, the one shout out I want to give you. But before I get to Chelsea fans, I'd like to thank my two brothers here, my co-host, Mr. Masanga and Mr. Mori. Chelsea fans, I think there's a bit of hope. there's a bit there's sunshine down the road that we need to start thinking of for next season. Forget about the season. The season is just darkness. We're just going through the motions. Think about how to just start to imagine next season when we have a fluid and dynamic front three and Mudryk and Christopher Nkunkulicious. What a player. It's going to be crazy. As well as Joao Felix, if we sign him on a permanent basis. Just imagine that front three with Declan holding it down in the mid and a young man that is going to be coming in next season. Listener, remember the name. Levi Cole, straight from the academy. We currently brought him to Brighton. He'll be playing next season. Superstar in the making. With this boy Lewis Hall and Connie Chukwemeka on the bench, coming on and changing the complexion of a game. Listener, I can go on for hours, but I won't take too much of your time. I think I'll just leave it there. I'll just let the creative juices start going in you, and you start to enjoy the prospect of what might happen next season there at the bridge under the guidance of Mr. Todd Bowley.
Indeed, indeed. Well, thank you so much, brothers. And listener, thank you so much. We will catch you on the next one. So enjoy the rest of your week. And just know that the next episode is going to be fire. And as Mangoro said, follow us on Insta, follow us on Twitter. We're on YouTube. Just search the Forest Brothers wherever you are, and you will find us. And with that, listener, we'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.